And here we are, we're live. So, as always, I say hello and thank you to everyone who can join us today. I know between work schedules, time zones, it's not always possible. So, a big thank you to Team Rewatch. And today I am joined by paranormal investigator and author Richard Palmisano. And
Well,
thank you for coming back for the second time. So excited.
very glad to be here, Elaine. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. And first off, how is the weather in your part of Ontario? It's a bit toasty down here for me.
Yeah, it's toasty here. It's toasty. We've got some cloud, so that helps a bit. But yeah, it's pretty warm.
Yeah.
You know,
And
I didn't have to go and shovel anything this morning, so you know what? I'll take it.
yeah, exactly. That's the kind of thing with Canada, right? Is we're either shoveling snow or getting nice and toasty, but at least we have a variety so we can't get bored.
That's right.
So, when I first had you on several months ago,
Hmm.
we were talking about journeys into the unknown.
Right. Yes.
And in this particular book, you have it set up in three different sections.
Right.
You had the ghost stories, then you talked a bit about the investigations, and of course, your theories on paranormal based on all your decades of investigating.
Right.
And then I picked up two more of your books.
Okay. Nice.
And I finished Overshadows, which I'd like to talk about as well.
Sure.
And I know we did talk about people not mentioning where the locations are, so we're going to keep that evasive for obvious reasons. But I did notice that in Overshadows, and this was from 2003,
Yep.
this seems to be more of an urban location, if I understood correctly. Whereas Meeting Place of the Dead, which I just finished a little while ago, seems to be more rural or an isolated
Yes.
location.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll quick say hello to people joining us and then talk about how those two stories unfolded because there's quite a bit to each of them and it's a different format from your other story. So, yes, Sven tried to scare me before we started off, and I scared him instead. Thought he was being a pirate, but no, made him scream. Now, the beauty of this, and it was a total coincidence, it happens to be full moon. So, how awesome is that for
That
a
is. That is.
paranormal
Right.
discussion? We also have Jenny ready to start some mischief, although I haven't seen Kat yet, the other little gremlin. We have Lily Eve. Hello and welcome. Everyone's saying hi.
Nice.
And
Hello, everyone.
happy full moon. So let's start with overshadows.
Okay.
And there was only one thing that I found a little difficult was figuring out the building. Like you did a great job of talking about the investigation and the people and the different areas. Now, is this basically, and it's been a little bit since I read it, was this basically a big old house, Richard, or something remodeled?
Yeah. So it was. It's complicated because it was an estate. So
Okay, yep.
so there was a large property. Originally, it was a mansion, and then there was his brother had a house on the property, and then there was a large building for I guess uh, servants.
Okay, yeah, yeah, because in the day, right?
Yeah. So he had. I mean, it was a huge building, and he had a lot of different servants running in the property. He also had a small cottage for the groundskeeper,
Mm.
and he had a large carriage house. where the drivers would sleep up above the.
Right.
So in the 1950s, uh, a developer bought the property, built some apartments around the estate, and then he chopped up the mansion and the servant quarters into apartments and townhomes. But he left them original. He just put divider walls to, so the servant quarters turned into three different apartments, 2 stories each.
Right.
So it was very, very large, very complex area.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't one specific area that was haunted. It was all the old buildings within the property.
Okay.
So it told us, it gave us an idea of who was haunting because of the era. That individual had access to all those properties. So that was some of the hints that we were getting of who it might be.
Right.
And then, it went on. That was a long, long investigation. We spent 6 years doing that work. So it was very complex. There was a lot of, it wasn't just one spirit. There was almost a dozen different spirits involved. So you can see how the complexities of it's like trying to put a puzzle together, but it's just a white blank puzzle with you have no idea where the pieces go, but you try and put them all together.
Yeah. Well, and then you also had to factor in, because there were people living in the different apartments. And so you had to factor in things that may be influenced by them,
Right.
as well as being able to go in and do the investigation. And of course, having to get permission from the property owner of when you could be there, and, having to kind of dance around that type of thing, because maybe some of the tenants wouldn't have felt good knowing that, there were ghosts around. How do you handle that type of thing? Because you've been doing this for quite a while in many locations.
It really worked out well for us on that investigation. So because the owner was allowing us to do all these access to different areas,
Yeah.
and because the investigation went on so long, most of them we waited. I mean, people come and go, especially in a haunted location. They don't want to stay long.
Yeah.
So people move in and they go, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And they move out and it's empty. And then the owner says, "Hey, you wanted to get in there, it's empty." So we would go in and spend some
Oh,
time.
nice. So in between.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
And the other thing is people got to know who I was because I lived on site as well.
Oh,
So
bonus.
people got to know who I was, and they would come by. You go, "Hey, you know what? I had some weird stuff happen in my place. Do you want to come and have a look?" And then you have to try and determine, is it what you're investigating, or is it something else completely different, right?
Yeah.
So, and then it becomes more complicated. No, you got your own ghost. It's not mine.
Well, and that's the other, right? Are they, I don't want to say making it up, because that's not what I mean, but is it that they know the place is haunted, so something that could be rationally explained,
Yeah.
but because they know there's something going on, it's like that, oh, well, it must be a ghost.
Yeah.
And again, having to, go through all of that, because like you said, is it what you were initially investigating, or has something new come into
Sure.
play?
Yeah.
Or come with that individual, because there's a number of different factors there. Jenny has a question. I know the answer, but I will let you answer this. Are all your books classed as nonfiction?
Yes. All my books are nonfiction.
Now, before we get a little more into Overshadows, because it really was a great read, and your team, the Searcher group, that has been together for quite a while, you use other people, but let's go through all your different books. Now, I currently only have 3 in total. Now, do you have your books right behind you there, Richard?
They're here. somewhere. Yeah,
Okay, I wasn't sure if that's what was
yeah,
behind you on
I
your
can get
other
them.
bookcase there.
Yeah, I
Sure,
can.
that would be great. And then people can see firsthand, because I do know, and I have the latest book that will be available. Richard was telling me before we started, it will be available in August in the US, September in Canada.
Yeah,
But let's go through all your other works first, Richard.
sure. So you have three, which is Overshadows, uh, Journeys into the Unknown, which is a
Yep,
collection.
Overshadows,
Yeah,
Journeys,
yeah, that's right.
and Meeting Place.
Meeting Place was the last one. Um, and then this was Ghosts.
Okay, yep.
It's an old mansion and a farm uh, in Mississauga on Lake Ontario.
Okay.
And that was a 3-year investigation, a nonfiction book. And then this one was it's kind of hard to see, I guess. Ghosts of the
Okay.
Canadian National Exhibition. So we were invited down to do the all the buildings and the grounds at the Canadian National Exhibition,
Mm-hmm.
which is fascinating. I mean, I used to go there as a kid, and eat the hot dog on a stick or candy floss and take all the rides. But to go back and actually investigate the history and the hauntings there is just fascinating. And it's quite haunted. It's very haunted,
Wow.
and it's sort of situated between two forts. So there's Old Fort York, and then there's the new fort, which is right on the CNE grounds, which was Stanley Barracks. They
Mm.
replaced Fort York, and very, very haunted place. There's a military graveyard sort of in between the two. It sits on Strong
Oh.
Avenue, and that's extremely haunted as well. So we had a lot of fun, and that was a running battle in 1813. World War
Mm.
12 was all through those grounds when the U.S. came up to take York, and they did take York, and
Mm.
and that was a huge battleground, and they're still finding bodies from
Oh my.
that year. Yeah, they it wasn't long ago. They were putting a flag post up, and they found 3 bodies. Just where, you know,
Wow.
every time they dig on the ground, they find another body. So yeah,
Yeah.
they sort of just buried them where they fell because there was so many.
Well, and again, such a different time, and like you say, just so many. And I think that's why it's also important to know about the history of the land
Yeah,
and what came before.
yeah,
And it's, well, because I read a lot of different ancient civilization stuff from all over,
mhm,
it does concern me when you see, and especially here in southwestern Ontario and other places, they're just expanding, throwing in all these subdivisions or highways, this and that, and all the history we're losing. It's trying to, I was, oh, it might be fingerprint. Yeah, because I'm reading, is it Fingerprints of the Gods? Graham Hancock, but I'm reading something else at the moment. And they're talking about, yeah, it was fingerprints in Central America.
mhm,
And of course, they found oil. So, hey, let's go for the oil,
sure.
and just decimated
Yeah,
where they could have found information about the Olmecs or the Toltecs,
yeah,
but it's now gone.
yeah. They don't care.
And no. And so before the archaeologists could get in, a lot of that stuff was just plowed over, destroyed. I mean, never mind what the conquistadors did when they got down there.
Yeah.
And it really is alarming the amount of history we're losing worldwide.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
when they build these dams,
Mhm.
I don't think it was Aswan, but there was one somewhere else, or even Hoover and the others. They flood,
Yeah,
towns and things, and all that history. I think it's either here in Ontario or somewhere on the East Coast where they flooded an area, and the town is literally like you can see the houses.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I can't remember where it is, but I do know it came up in one of my ghost books. It might be from the Haunted Canada series. So that was either Joel Sutherland or Barbara Smith talking about the ghosts there because this town's literally.
Well, yeah. There's a few towns down in the States as well. They just flooded areas, put lakes in, and for reservoirs, and the entire town's there. And you know what? It's right there with the town is the cemetery.
Exactly.
If that's not a desecration, I don't know what it is. But
Yeah.
they're finding these places to be haunted, and whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But I'd like to go. I mean, not that I want to deal with ghosts and water because
That could get interesting.
I'm not a good swimmer. So
Yeah, you don't want to gasp underwater when you only got so much air.
I was watching a documentary on a shipwreck out in Nova Scotia, and they say it's haunted. Like the divers actually feel the presence of things underwater when they're down there.
Wow.
It was the Atlantic, and it SS Atlantic, and it ran ashore, hit the rocks, and it was carrying 1,000 immigrants,
Oh.
and more than half drowned, 10 meters from shore.
Oh my.
Yeah, and it's and of the 1,000 on board, not a single woman survived, and it's because of the dresses. Not only the dresses they wore, right, the water, the dress over your head, but because they were immigrants and they were actually going to the U.S. They were stopping in Nova Scotia to pick up coal.
Oh.
They sewed anything of value, any gems.
Yeah, in the hems.
They sewed it. So it's like wearing a belt, a weighted belt. So you hit that water, you just sank. And the problem was the ship hit the rocks. It sort of leaned towards the ocean, and it was 410 feet long. So you couldn't get around to get.
Yeah.
So it was tragic, very tragic. But the divers say it's quite haunted.
No doubt. Yeah, I was just came across a channel, and of course, mind fart, so I can't think of the name of it. The Tape Library, I think it's called. And there's actually a few fascinating episodes I just watched about Lake Michigan and Lake Superior, and of course Lake Superior and Gordon Lightfoot.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, the Edmund Fitzgerald, right? And that just disappeared. It's a very bizarre situation, the Edmund Fitzgerald, because it had been sighted, like, I think it was just minutes before, and then suddenly the entire ship and everyone on it gone. Well, like it.
Yeah, I think they get hit with a rogue wave, but when they found that, and they did find the ship, they found that the all the top hatches were open. So the problem, I think, or they were explaining, is that rogue wave came in and just flooded the hull.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't stand a chance. So
yeah, they say lakes.
Yeah, but why they were open, I have no idea why you would open those hatches.
Yeah, and the weather was, I mean, they said the weather was bad, and this YouTube video I watched also talked about, Superior has some really scary type weather on it. It almost sounds like it's one of the most dangerous of the 5 lakes to be out on. I mean,
It is. It's a huge, huge lake, though. So it's almost like an inland sea,
Yep.
right? So
So many things happen. So we'll catch up on so Jenny's saying thank you, lets me know what folder to put it in. Jenny is a big Kindle user,
awesome.
and so her books are very easy to carry everywhere, which is good because we always tease her. She has a ton. And
Well,
she's added all your books to her wish list.
I have a flash drive here, Jenny. There's library on it, and it's these are all paranormal books, nonfiction paranormal books, and scientific papers on that have covered sort of the parapsychology, and it's over 1,000 books on here.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to find an AI system that'll search those.
Oh,
So, but maybe in the future, I'll
nice.
find something.
Yeah, nice. And wow, 1,000, which tells you how popular and how many works are out there for sure. So many different ideas. Now, I know Lily's comment was, I think when we were talking about overshadows
Right.
and people passing, they wonder why we keep repeating the mistakes of the past. So sad and true because yes, if, that old saying, if you don't remember the past and about the passings and heartbroken with all the women, of course, because it is a very tragic, well, even the Titanic.
Right.
And I am glad they've left it down there, but I know because it is a funeral, it's a burial site. I mean, so many of those people perished. And I know, I think it's somewhere in the States. They did bring up a piece of the ship,
Right.
and I'm amazed that it survived because you think of how long it was underwater, and of course, once it hits the air, things are different.
Right.
But they've put it into a museum, and like I say, I can't remember, but I think it's in the US, and different things have happened since that piece
Right.
arrived in that location. But I still find it interesting that the ship, well, a lot of it's now breaking down because it's been over a
Oh, yeah.
century in some,
That's
and you
right.
think of all the weight of the water on it. But I do find it fascinating how these ships can stay at the bottom of the ocean and these lakes, and they're not crushed under the pressure.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like how that works, because we certainly learned tragically when that company was, and I'm claustrophobic, so I could never get in those little
Yeah.
things to begin with, let alone be locked in. But of course, it was the pressures that blew that container apart with that poor young man who didn't want to go anyhow, but dad insisted.
Right.
And, divers and everyone have to be so careful because
The
the
pressure.
weight of the water on top of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's different. I mean, a ship that sinks fills with water, so it sort of balances out, right? So the pressure outside is the same as the pressure inside. This is why on the Titanic, all they found all the wine bottles empty
Mm.
because of the pressure pushed the corks in, and then they
Ah, yeah.
where that diving bell, I guess, is pressurized inside
Mm.
to try and keep it from being crushed.
Yeah.
Where it failed was that that pressure connected, right? So it either sprung a leak
Mm.
or there was a failure in keeping that pressure balanced, and it just
And going.
crushed it into nothing, right?
Yeah, and that would, I mean, and you've mentioned too that, when divers go to these different sites, whether it's the Titanic or different ones, even they tend to notice. I mean, part of it, it's got to be a creepy experience no matter what. Like you know that air is way up above you, lighting is different. You know you're going in many cases to see something where people have disappeared because the bodies don't always come up and there are tragedies. And yeah, it does because, with some of the theories, people say whether it's a thunderstorm or there's water nearby, that generates more activity.
Yeah,
And here these ships are right in bodies of water,
that's right.
so does that help keep, whether it's, what's the term for when it loops? It's a type of tape that just plays back. So it's not actually a ghost. It's more like a memory of the event.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about stone tape theory.
Not exactly, because that's with it recorded into the building type of thing. Residual.
Oh, residual. Okay, sure.
There we go. So residual. So the event happened and it's like, yeah, and Jenny's right. It is kind of like an echo. There's nothing there to interact with in terms of the presence that you see.
Right.
It's like watching a movie. It happened, and for some reason, and that could tie in with stone tape theory as well, as, you know, is it like your thumb drive, which, all this technology uses crystals? Is there some way for it to be recorded or memorized? The only reason I question stone tape theory, and I haven't looked deeply into it, but when I hear, and okay, granted, it's on YouTube, so take that with a pound of salt or a field of salt. But when I've seen people mention this in their investigations, it's never happy stuff that's recorded.
Right.
It's always the gruesome
Yeah.
or horrific things. And I'm thinking, if it's based on strong emotion, people feeling things, and the stone, if you believe it, is recorded, why wouldn't some of it record happy events? Like, why don't we ever see ghosts or the residuals of a wedding or a birth or,
Oh, yeah. But we have.
have we?
Yeah.
Okay.
In this book,
All right.
we took witness statements from a ton of people, and a lot of them reported seeing the same thing, and they didn't know each other, but they all reported seeing the same or very similar of a couple at the water's edge getting married. She had a nice long white flowing dress, and he had a tuxedo with a top hat, and they were getting married. And then they just
Wow.
away on the breeze, right? Just faded away. But yeah, sometimes there's happy stuff. Although I don't believe in the stone tape theory. I have a different theory.
Okay.
And, so we're surrounded by all kinds of energies and spirits. And my theory is basically these entities can sometimes, like we do, like the living do, daydream. So we daydream about an event, a situation, something that's occurred. And if that daydream is fueled by some great emotion, so it was very emotional to them,
Yeah.
that can actually manifest out and become like a bubble. And we can see it. And that will explain a lot of the things we'll see that we think are residual. It can also explain phantom cars, phantom trains, phantom horses, phantom stagecoaches, because they think about these things like we do, right? Oh, I remember the old 212 train used to blast through town, and there it is. The tracks are gone. It hasn't been in here for 60 years, but there it is. The light, the big light shining, and you can hear the
Yeah.
wind going, and it just fades away, right? Same with ghost ships.
Mm.
You remember, oh, you remember that ship that came through the harbor? It was on fire. And then people see it's manifested, right? It comes back because somebody's remembering it. And
Thought
it's
of it.
manifesting apart from them. Sort of like, people can create entities, right? Well, at a loss here for a second here.
Oh, golems?
Yeah, well, sort of.
Like?
Like, Annie Besant wrote a book on it. I think I have it here. I'm just trying to remember what it was called. Yeah, I don't see it there, but so you can create a character or an entity
Mm-hmm.
by thinking about it. So,
Yep.
right. So I think one of the words was ergon or ergodon or something like that, and
And I'm going to write down her name because, of course, I'm always looking for new authors. And I mean, there's so many different theories.
yeah, there's
Ideas out there.
I love paranormal theory. I work on it. I'm trying to remember where I put that book, but of course I have too many books. Well, can you have too many books? I don't know.
No, you cannot.
No. Right.
Blasphemy. Too many books. What kind of nonsense is that?
Annie Besant, and I think she worked with a gentleman named Leadbeater, and oh, I don't. I'm pulling a blank. I don't know why I'm pulling a blank on this.
That's okay. I'll look it up now.
Thought forms. Sorry. So that
Okay.
you create thought forms, and several people have written about it, including her and this gentleman, Leadbeater. That you can create thought forms.
Mm.
And those thought forms can actually take a personality, build their own personality, and become an entity out there in the world. And they could be good or they could be bad. It depends on what they decide to do. And I truly believe that because they did. You ever hear of the shadow? The old back in the day, the shadow knows. Right?
Yeah.
So the gentleman that created him lived in a house on number 12 Gay Street in New York, and he lived in that apartment for decades, and he used to write 2 novels a month.
Wow.
2 novels, and he'd have 6 or 7 typewriters, and he'd be working all kinds of stories constantly, simultaneously, and he created the shadow. And this shadow, since he's gone from that building, people have reported seeing what they believe is the shadow. He has the wide brim hat, the cape, and he roams the building.
Wow.
So all that energy, all that thought, all that creativity created this thought form of this, and it became an entity. And it's still there. It's still there haunting the building. So
wow.
I truly believe that it's very possible.
I know you're fascinated, Tiki.
Oh.
She usually doesn't come, but she's definitely like, wow, Mom. Yeah, and I've read that too, and I mean, you're right. There's so many different energies and people's thoughts, and especially if they're really honed in on something, right? Like constantly thinking about it and focused. And Jenny was saying, and I'll just catch up a bit here, maybe it needs stronger emotions. That's when we were talking about the stone tape and residual. Lily saying interesting, and she's had some many paranormal experiences. Agreed. Many, many books. Hey, Constance, thanks for joining. And we have everyone saying hello, and we've scared Lily. But I mean,
Well,
that's an,
it's true. Jenny's correct. It takes a great deal of emotion, and I'll give you an example. Um, no, this is going back years, but I got an emergency call from a curator from Pioneerville. It was a Pioneer Village, not the one,
mm,
a different one. She called and she says, "We have a house on our property, and there's something in the house, and it's scaring the kids.
mm.
And can you help me?" And I said, "Yeah." And I put a small team together, my medium, and that, and we went out there. And
Bye, Teeks.
so what happened was the kids would come into the house. It was from the 1840s, and they had a couple staff dressed in period costume, and they would bake cakes, make cookies, whatever, to show what life was like in the 1840s.
Yeah, I used to love going on those trips.
All fascinating. And the kids would come in, and usually no problem, but sometimes a group of kids would come in, and all of a sudden this woman would manifest. The kids would be terrified. They go running out across the field,
Yeah.
screaming, not good for business. And
Yeah.
so we did our work, and that's how we try and work. Is try and not banish them, but we try and work with them, conflict resolution.
Mm-hmm.
So her name was Mrs. Lucas, and she was the original owner of the homestead. And she was manifesting because of high emotion.
Mm.
High emotion is the precursor for manifestation. So what would happen is she'd be in the house doing her thing, and these kids would come in, and she had a great love bond with her grandson, who's also gone now. I mean, that was the 1840s. But one of the kids coming in with the group looked like, and she go, "Oh, my grandson," and the emotion was so overpowering, she manifested. And then she went, "Oh, that's not my grandson." And she would, "Okay."
And then,
well, too late. The kids are screaming and running, right? So, and this would happen from time to time. So I got the medium. He made contact with her. He said, "No, you can't. He's gone. If you want to go look for him, go. But you can't do this. He's not coming back here."
mm.
And then, but she had a couple of grievances as well. There was a smoking pipe in the bedroom. She would never allow smoking in that house. And that really upset her.
Mm.
And she didn't like the fact that nobody was using any respect for the house. They would just come into the field, into the house. She said, "You don't even wipe your feet." So we went back to the curator, said, "Okay, I think we've got it resolved, but you got to do a couple things. You got to put a mat, use some respect, get rid of that smoking pipe."
Mm.
And that was oh God, 10 years ago. They've never had a problem in the house since.
Nice.
Yeah. So we resolved it. She's happy. They're happy. Everybody gets along. So, but it's that emotion that is the precursor for manifestation. If you can get them, and that's what I try and do when I'm investigating, I try and get to know who they are, and I try and push their buttons and get them into an emotional state, and then they're going to react. I don't want to upset them to the point where, we're trying to build a trusting relationship. So we try and do it on a good level. So we try and do the fun times, or maybe use some music that they might have listened to in their lifetime, and that can spur. Yeah.
That really came up a lot in
Yeah.
The Meeting Place. I remember you talking about the different songs, and of course being respectful, not being belligerent. And again, this is what drives me nuts when I watch some of these paranormal things, is the, "Oh, I ain't scared of you." And I'm like, how rude.
Yeah, I know. It's
Yeah,
I don't don't get me going on that.
Okay. Let's go back to the music you play. And
Not a big fan of the paranormal shows, but but yeah, it's the emotion is and really emotion is the fuel behind it, but it's really memory, right? We are the sum of our memories. Without memory, we wouldn't exist. There would be nothing. Just empty space. So it's those memories that we hold that make us. That's our reality. I mean, if you woke up in the morning without memory, you wouldn't know who you were. You wouldn't know where to work. You wouldn't know how to get anywhere. You wouldn't know anything.
Yeah.
So it's really that's the major portion of what a ghost is, and it's the fuel behind it, which is emotion. So
now here's an interesting thought talking about pioneer villages, and of course we know that many of those homes are moved from their original locations.
that's right.
So are the people attached to the home versus the history of the land, the property where the events happened?
That's right.
Or can it work both ways?
Working on that, actually.
Well, because I mean, you've been doing this since you were 18. You've had so much experience combined with your work investigative knowledge and experience. And so obviously your theories over time would have changed and developed and, and
they do, they're very fluid. They do change, and you have to, admit when you're wrong or it doesn't work, and then move on and try and learn from what you thought to what you now think, and see if that makes more sense, and then try it. You take it out to the field and test it and see, does it work? Doesn't it work? And if it does, then tell people so they can go test it. And if you can get more people testing it and they're finding the same results, well, it's starting to sound like maybe science.
Yeah.
So, but there's a series of experiments I'm putting together, and that's sort of one of them. So maybe that'll be a new book down the road. I don't know.
Nice.
But but it's hard because it's trying to do those things, especially in a small town environment. It's tough, right? All right, they're worried. You've got the two biggest factors that are against you: the religious side of town, nothing to do with you, and then there's the real estate side of town, where, what do you mean? My place might be haunted. What that's going to do to my property value? So, right. So that leaves you, that little margin where you've got maybe 6 of the 1,200 people say, "Okay, come and look at my stuff," and that's not a good sample group. So it's really tough. But
now
I never give up.
And that's a good thing. Now, the one book we didn't talk about, I did mention when you were off getting the others, this is your newest book. Right. And I mentioned, and you had said it's available come August in the US, September in Canada. Now, is this, and I know we talked a bit about it the last time you were on, is this more your theories and experiences overall compared to like Meeting and Overshadows focus on one particular investigation per book?
Right. So
and I love the cover of this, by the way. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, they did a good job. They did a great job. And that's by Llewellyn Worldwide, by the way. But this is more of a handbook for somebody that either has an interest or wants to go and do this. And it's
cool.
And it gives a lot of insights and tricks of the trade and things you should watch out for, and how to get access to a property, how to analyze that, what you think might be evidence, how to analyze it and find out, is it good or is it not good, or uh, who can help with some of those things that are out there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So everything from how to set up surveillance equipment to taking photographs to using music to so it's a lot of the tricks of the trade. It's just a helpful guide. Uh, More than a guide, it's a it's a full handbook. It's quite extensive.
Yeah,
But
like a
it's something,
manual for
yeah,
paranormal investigators.
and I think it's handy because you can throw it in your backpack and take it with you on the field, and you go, how should we handle this? And oh, page 81. Oh yeah, okay. So in case you don't,
Well,
I mean,
and that was the beauty also of journeys,
mhm,
is you talk about the equipment and investigating. You have sample forms at the back,
yeah,
which again, for serious investigators, this is an excellent, you know, starting point. Even though it's a few years older, some
yeah,
of the equipment's changed.
oh yeah,
It's a great intro. And then the work that you have now, of course, is more updated with even more information.
yeah.
It's going to say a quick hello to Alan. And Alan, let's be Gandalf. You're never late. You always arrive when you're meant to. But yeah, I think, and again, that's one thing that's missing from some of this stuff in social media and the paranormal investigators, right? Is they're not really it's entertainment, and
Yeah,
there's a
most of it's
few.
entertainment. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
thrill
there's
seekers.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's mostly entertainment or thrill seekers, um, or even paranormal travel, right? So you're gonna pay your $48 and you're gonna spend the night with 85 people walking through a haunted house, and then you're gonna come out and go, oh, we got so much evidence.
Mm,
How? How did you? How with all those people walking around, breathing, stomach gurgles, flatulence, uh,
yeah.
and you're recording, and what? How do you know you've got anything? Like I get a laugh out of it, but hey, it's fun. I mean, if that's what you do, it's a thrill, right? For some people, this is a thrill, but these aren't serious people. They're not going to make an advancement in parapsychology. They're just going
And
to having a good time, right? It's just like going to the theater and put your money down and watch a movie for 2 hours.
and that's the thing. And there are a couple who are trying, but you're not going to get that evidence on YouTube ever. I'm sorry. And that's not to say, and I've watched so many of them start off, be legit, but then they want the views and clicks, and then they get caught pulling crap, which is why the debunking community has exploded. Years ago, there were just a few of them. But I mean, part of that's the audience too. Like, how people can be so gullible blows my mind. Because if the paranormal was this easy to capture, and you can get all this stuff in a 30-minute video of EVPs and things flying and this and that and everything else,
Yeah,
surely to crikey, there'd be more answers, and the other scientists would be involved.
sure.
So, I mean, it's a double edge, right?
Yeah,
Because you can't fully blame the people trying to make a buck, and some of them are grifters, I'm not going to lie.
yeah,
But then you got the people who want to be taken in, or they're vulnerable, they've just experienced a loss, they're looking for some comfort, some kind of an assurance, and then they get suckered.
yeah.
You
That's
know,
right.
it's
Yeah, I know it's it's not pleasant out there. It's a battlefield. But most of the work I do is offline. It's I do it under cover of darkness because um, in this day and age, I mean, if I were to go online and talk about my uh, what theory I'm working on or what discovery I might have made in the last month or so, I would just see that used, plagiarized to death. I would never get any credit for it. It would show up in documentaries. It would show up in TV shows. And people would be taking credit for my work.
Yeah.
That's happened to me, I don't know how many times.
I remember you mentioning that, and that's the bugaboo of it, isn't it? Is, you've worked so hard, you've developed it, you've done the actual research and out there in the field, and then suddenly somebody else
They just
runs.
steal it. They just steal it. You never mention it, and they just use it. And I'm not talking about the kid down the road
Yep.
who's trying to make a name for himself. That happens as well. I'm talking about big names, big corporations swooping and stealing your work, a ton of money on it, and they're like, well, I don't know who that guy is. What are you talking about? I'll give you a great example. You have Journeys to the Unknown.
Yes.
In that book, I talk about a theory on the memory bubble.
Right. Yep.
So if you look at if you read that chapter and you look at the copyright date of the book, The Simpsons came out episode. They used the name and everything that I wrote in that theory. One of the highest grossing episodes they ever produced, and I was never mentioned. They just stole it outright. And this show came out 1 year after my book. But there's nothing I can do because Fox owns it, and Fox has 2 lawyers for every employee. So if I were to take them to court, I would lose my house, my dog.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's nothing. Yeah. So that's how it works. So I keep my stuff close until I'm ready to publish it, and then I'll publish it outright. But
yeah,
even some of my friends have no idea what I'm working on until it's time to release it.
Yeah. Well, at least it's nice you've got the searcher group and a team of people you can trust.
Yep.
So, you're not kind of having to slug alone on it. I just personally wish, and then I'll get to some of the comments because it ties in as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish these ones on YouTube didn't call themselves paranormal investigators.
Yeah.
Because to me, they're urban explorers trespassing on people's property.
Yeah.
There's very few of them who go to the same location more than once. Bugaboo number one, because seriously, one time, and they go at night, which, some people say better chances, everything else, but you don't know the house. So those creaks and everything else could just be the house settling.
Yep.
Sometimes you don't know the neighborhoods, and I'll give some of them credit. They have shown episodes when people have been, trying to set them up and knocking on houses or coming to be a pain in the katukas, and I'm sure it happens more than you ever see on the numerous channels, when the police show up because the neighbors have called and said, hey, there's these weird lights in this house where nobody lives.
I know.
So they're basically urban explorers. They're not keeping records. Some of them can't even tell you where they've been, and they don't research any of the property. So they have no idea before or after they've gone. Because again, there's always that debate of, well, do you just go and see what you can see and then research to verify and validate, or do you research the property first to figure out if there's even anything there to go look for, right?
Right.
But
Well,
oops, that's Alan saying hi. Jenny had a question. How do you feel about shows like Most Haunted or films like High Spirits? Go ahead, Richard.
yeah. We know Most Haunted is more of a. It's just an entertainment thing, right? I mean, they're very good at throwing pebbles at each other and screaming, and they're not really investigating anything. It's just a show. I mean, I love the show when it came out.
Yep.
That was great. Richard was awesome, but it's entertainment. These people have a script. They have to make it scary, right? Because if they don't, they're not going to be here next week, right? It's all ratings.
Yep.
Those ratings, and we see that in Zach, right? Zach went looking for ghosts, and he said, "Oh, well, this is getting boring. What can we do?" So now, every time Zach goes out of the house, it's a demon, right? Next month it's going to be abduction by aliens or something, but I don't know. It's all about ratings, and if you don't get those ratings, you're not coming back. Where I don't have to worry about that because I don't.
Yeah.
I just do my thing. I'm looking for the truth. So I'm doing the hard work. But if you look at these TV shows, ask yourself, sit back, look at it, and go, have they ever done anything to advance the research in that field? And the answer is no. It's a hard no. They're not doing anything. They'll find spirits and they'll call it names and they'll do all kinds of stuff. And at the end of the show, they're off to the next place. They don't care.
Yep.
One way or the other, if it's haunted or even not haunted. Right? But a lot of these places they've gone in, other people have gone in, and they're not finding anything. Where these guys barely made it out with their lives, but the next team goes in to look at the place, and they're like, "There's nothing here." Well, yeah, but you know what? We had to get some ratings, so. And you really don't know on TV what's behind the camera. Who's making the noise? Who's that stick? Who's creeping up the stairs? You have no idea, right? It's always a crew member, right? They don't want you to know there's the cameraman standing there, but he's there. And you see his shadow cast it, and you're like, what was that shadow? Oh yeah, it's not 4 of them, it's 8 of them, right? And they're picking up all this evidence with 8 or 12 people in a room. You've got a director and the sound guys, and it's Hollywood, right? I wish my work was that easy, but it's not.
Well, and that's it. And I think, again, if people are watching it for entertainment, then that's great. And if they realize it's entertainment, so much the better.
Yeah.
I think my bugaboo is when people think it's real.
Yeah, I know.
And that it isn't. But if people are, and actually this ties in, I'll talk more about it when I get to Constance's comment. Lots of ghosts and hauntings in Portland, Oregon. Not so well on Sasquatch.
Well, you know what? I'd rather hunt ghosts than Sasquatch because I don't know what's wrong with the Sasquatch hunters. But I'm not going in the middle of the forest, in the middle of nowhere, looking for an 8-foot beast without at least half a dozen bodyguards. There's no way. Because what are you going to do when you find it?
Well, and this is it, right? And it always I've seen a couple, and it bothers me when they go with guns, but humans and that. Yeah. But yeah, the thing is, if you find it, and I mean, okay, maybe a big telescope lens or whatever that you can zoom in, but then what do you do? And I mean, you're out in the middle of the woods. It's not just Sasquatch wanting to have lunch. It's the mountain lions and the cougars and everything else. It's not an easy gig, that Bigfoot deal.
Yeah, no, I'd rather hunt ghosts. I'm all safe in my scary house, and that's fine. So
exactly. Jenny saying in Scotland, majority buildings have stories and upshot to such a long but violent history. Yeah, much of
I would
the
love
UK for sure.
to go to Scotland, but the problem is we've got perfectly good ghosts right here. So, uh, although I'd love to go to Scotland, it's logistically it's better to stay here. Just to get my
Mhm.
equipment over the border, I'd be branded a terrorist or something. I don't know. What's that piece of equipment? Oh, I can't tell you.
Yeah, with so many. Well, and to be honest, it's the one thing I very much appreciate you because when it comes to ghost stories and everything else, there's very few people talking about all the stuff in Canada. And yet there are so many locations, not just here in Ontario,
Oh,
but all over the country,
everywhere. Yeah, look at
and
Nova Scotia. We talked about that shipwreck, but look at Nova Scotia, right? 1917, that ship blast. It destroyed most of the
yep.
city. That is one haunted location. I mean, you can go coast to coast to coast. It's there's stuff everywhere, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, there were a few channels I had gotten excited. They were Canadian. What's most of their content? Going to the States. Well, maybe not now, but
Yeah.
before the world went cray cray in 2025,
Oh yeah,
um,
that's
a
right.
lot,
That,
yeah, a lot of the locations they went to were south of the border. I'm
yeah,
like, WTF, you're Canadian.
yeah.
Like, you're living in a city with ghosts. Why are you traveling?
Well, I sort of understand it. I do understand it. See, we two totally different cultures. If you look down at the states, there's probably I could probably name 100,000 abandoned buildings just
Mm,
sitting there empty. Where in Canada, if we have anything that's older than 20 years,
yeah.
the forestry wants to go burn it down right away, just or bulldoze it. You could have 500 hectares of empty land and a
Mm,
historical property, and the historical property is where they want to build a condominium.
yeah, of course.
You know, and that's why we have no history because we just tear it down, right? Oh, that's old. Let's tear it down right away. But why? We could build it over here. It's a parking lot over here. Oh no, no, no. Let's tear that down. It drives me crazy. It drives me
Yeah.
but
And you're like in this paranormal chat. You never come up during during live stream. She's liking the ghosty talks.
yeah, that's awesome.
So, and Alan's mentioning the Shanghai
Yeah,
tunnels.
that's that's creepy. It's a creepy place there.
Where are those, Richard? I don't know those.
Uh, I think they're in. I think they're in San Francisco. I could be wrong. Uh,
Okay, let us know, Alan, if because
yeah,
yeah, I actually
but that's
TPM.
where they used to. That's where you used to kidnap. Uh,
Mm.
they used to get you drunk and then throw you through a trap door, and then you'd end up working on a ship.
Oh, those might actually be in Oregon or some. There's a
I can't.
series.
I can't remember where. I just. I know.
Yeah,
I've read about them. I can't remember the location. But
there was a series on Prime, and it was called Underground Cities. In that,
yeah.
it's crazy how many cities have things below them, not just in the UK.
Mhm.
And I think the Shanghai tunnels were was one of those episodes. But yeah, I can't remember
I know that.
where.
Yeah, I know it's close to the ocean because they used to open
Yeah.
the trap doors and
And then off you went, like you say, on the ship. Now, with Constance's, maybe viewers don't believe, but are just entertained. And I agree. And like I say, I don't have an issue with that. But there are some, and I'm not going to name the channel because the guy's a massive douche, so I'm not giving him airspace. He is. And he's in the UK, and the debunkers would know exactly, and anyone who's followed some of the paranormal channels. So this guy pretends, and he has been for years, and that in itself should tell you something. And I think he's even moved in the time. But he claims he's haunted, of course, drops the big D because that's what gets the clicks.
Yeah.
And then he came up with the idea that he's being haunted by Vlad Tepes because he brought a rock from Romania.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, number one, Vlad would have staked your ass day one if he was anywhere near you.
Yeah.
Because he had no use for that kind of grifting and BS.
Yeah.
And if you'd studied about Vlad,
Mhm.
you would know he would not hang around with some little commoner. Not his gig, man.
No, that's right.
But there are people who for years have been sending him money because he's monetized. He's been debunked so many times, it's ridiculous.
Mhm.
And then he copyrighted his channel. So now when he shows up anywhere, whether they show a picture of his face or mention his name, whatever, he gets the money from that video, even if it's only 10, 20 seconds worth. But these people are like praying for him and sending him money. I'm like, people, do some research. Like, how are you not cluing in?
Yeah. Wow.
I'm just like, oh. And I've been wanting to do an episode on Vlad and vampires for a while. And I even recorded one.
Yeah.
And I need to redo it because I keep thinking of this and then I just lose it and go on a rant. And I'm like, that is not what I want in my video.
That's right. Yeah. I know.
So it's just one of those, golly gosh. Okay, Jenny's heard of them too. Thought they were just an urban myth. So there you go. The tunnels are in fact real. Just want to be sure people saying hi. Still kind of weird. Best way to be, normal's overrated.
That's right. Well, what's normal? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You approve. Had to start my day over. Oh, allergies, toothache. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope you feel better soon. Yikes. And then anyone seen the Amish version of Go? Okay, now that would be interesting.
Yeah, I've watched it. Yeah.
What
I
are your
watched.
thoughts on
I
that?
watch most of these things because, well, I want to be entertained as well. But
Yeah.
you know, and I look at them as comedies almost. But I have watched it. I have watched it.
Okay. I haven't seen it now. Alan's curious about Enotian spirits. I got nothing.
No, I got nothing. Maybe you can enlighten us.
He may in the comments farther down. Now, Ghost Whisperer, I kind of didn't mind until they killed off her husband. That stank.
Yeah.
But I did find it interesting, and I actually have one book by James Van Praagh. Not quite sure what I think of him yet, and I do want to talk about the mediums that you work with, and that will come up in Overshadows and Meeting. And I should also check, how are you for time, Richard? Because we're just past 3 o'clock.
Yeah, we go to about 4 o'clock. If that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Good to know, because there's so much to talk about,
Yeah.
and
I know.
but I know your schedule is busy as well. So, like the first couple seasons, then stopped watching. That's with Ghost Whisperer, Bobcat Goldthwait. That name sounds familiar. Into the Bigfoot Hunters.
Hmm.
Okay, and I know there's lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! Only 2025? Well, it just got weirder in 2025, Jenny. Let's put it that way. Just realizing you're in Ontario.
Oh,
That's so cute. Born, raised Toledo. Used to go to Windsor all the time. Yeah. Yes, both Richard and I are in Ontario. Oh, I guessed right. Woo woo!
Portland, huh?
Portland.
So,
I actually remembered.
yeah, wow.
There are tunnels. Oh, at Mar-a-Lardo. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Captain Makeup's got something else hidden in there.
Oh boy.
I love all the code words. See, we know how to be
Yeah,
evasive. New place to add to my visiting bucket list.
there you go.
That's right. When you win the lottery, still here looking for wires. Hey, everyone who dropped in. Ben's funny. Here we go. Jenny, isn't a notion, something to do with angel. Oh, here we go. Yeah, angels, Dr. John D. and
Oh yeah,
Queen Victoria.
right.
All right.
Yeah. So
I would need to,
he was the super psychic.
yeah,
Basically.
1500s. Oh, hey, and we've caught up. Yeah, I'd have to, so I've still got nothing because I don't really know much about that. But yeah, while we're talking psychics, and they come up in, well, actually, in all of the three books, but in Overshadows and Meeting, I know you usually take psychics, mediums with you when you go on your investigations. And I like the way that you describe how you use them and validating
Yeah.
information. Can you talk a bit about that, and how do you find individuals or decide to work with them?
Yeah. So usually, usually somebody will introduce me to a medium, and then I'll have to investigate the medium and make sure they're legitimate.
Right.
Taking Charlotte to a job site, because what we basically want to do is know if they have that talent, that ability, and they get upset with me because I basically call them another tool in the toolbox, and that, and I don't mean any disrespect to them. Matter of fact, I have a great regard for their ability, but they are another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
Right? And I have to use them in certain ways to gain information that I would use as any other piece of equipment.
Yep.
And the mediums that I've been using are very extraordinary. They've been very good. And how you can tell, now I've tested them, but how you can really tell is when you get into an EVP session and you're recording and your medium is saying, oh, so and so, or she's saying yes about this. And then you play this recording back and you hear a female go, yes. And then the medium goes, oh, and she's saying yes about this. Well, there's the evidence that the medium's doing the work, because I didn't hear it until I replayed it. But he or she heard it live.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells you a great deal about if the medium is doing the job or not. The other thing is, when I do research on the property, I don't usually tell the team, and I certainly never tell the medium. And the medium doesn't come all the time. They come certain times when I need them.
Right.
So when they come in and they start saying, oh, something about the history, well, they couldn't know, because first of all, they didn't know where they were coming to.
Okay. Yep.
So only I would know about that particular thing.
Right.
Some of these things aren't even to be found online. A lot of the information I have is directly from an owner that said, oh, by the way, this happened or whatever, or someone used to own it before me. So they wouldn't know. There's no way for them to know. And one of the greatest pieces of evidence I ever had was partially from a medium. And it was an old property we were doing. And it went back 1820, so about 200 years old. And we had been running audio video surveillance, and we got electronic voice phenomena of a woman and a boy. And the boy said, "Miriam, you're coming in." And she said, "Thank you." So I said, "Oh, that's great." So I record all this stuff and
Mm-hmm.
keep it in record because I'm going to write about it down the road. So I don't know the boy's name, but I know her name because he called her Miriam. So, okay, we know that one of the spirits in the house is a woman named Miriam. So probably a month later, we brought one of our psychics to the house, and she came in and she's wandering the house, and she said, went into one room, and she said, "There's an older woman here. She's not very happy about her life. Her name is Miriam."
Hmm.
Well, there's no way she would know. So I made a recording of that. So that's pretty interesting. I got an EVP of Miriam. Medium's telling me there's a Miriam. So down the road, I think it was 3 or 4 months later, and I'd gone to the property, and I was meeting with the owners and giving them an update on how we're investigation is moving forward and what we're discovering. And they said, "Well, we did renovations on this building
Hmm.
years ago." And I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "We tore out some of the paneling and there was no insulation."
Hmm.
And his wife said, "Well, there was some insulation, but it was old magazines and newspapers." That's how they did it in the day. They used to just.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, "Oh, really?" She says, "I've got a big basket full of, we've kept some of the good stuff. Do you want to look at it?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to."
Yeah.
So she brought the basket from her house, and she said, "Here, have a look at it." So it was going all through it. There were religious magazines from 1905, 1906 that they pulled out of the wall.
Hmm.
And the mailing label was to Miriam.
Wow.
So now I can directly put Miriam in that house.
Yeah.
Back in 1905, 1906. I've got an EVP that says she's there, and I've got a medium that says she's there.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know what you would classify as evidence,
Yeah.
but I would say that's outstanding.
Well, and from different sources. So
Yeah.
thank goodness they kept those old papers.
So, I mean, we look at evidence, and evidence really isn't one thing. It's a whole pile of things, right?
Exactly.
Same in a criminal case. They talk about evidence. Evidence is a bunch of things that all support each other to say, "Hey, this happened," or whatever.
That's right. It's not
gotta
just
it's got to be the same in paranormal research.
agreed. Just going to quick say hi to Leslie, who is popping in with us. And yeah, I absolutely agree about, it's not just one. And that's why it's great to use different things and, like you say, different tools.
Yeah.
The research is important, and putting the different things together. It isn't just, oh, I saw a figure, or, oh, I heard something on an EVP. It's a number of things together that bring you that whole story.
Right.
And I'm just going to catch up on comments. And then I want to talk as well about, and you've made an excellent point, and it comes up in actually all 3 books, about not banishing spirits.
Right.
And I think that's really important. I want to touch on that as well. Jenny's asking, have we ever read Will Storr versus the Supernatural? Don't know that one. Richard?
No. Where's this? No, I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. And then people saying hi. Ven saying he's looking for wires for his older kid. Woohoo! Look, we're caught up. That's impressive because it's lovely. This chat talks to each other and asks how everyone's doing, and I love that. It's
That's
great. So we
awesome.
can chit chat. Now, in I'm thinking there's a story in Journeys into the Unknown where you share the importance of not banishing and why it could be bad, but you also talk about it in Overshadows and Meeting Place
Yeah.
about why, even if sometimes you feel it's malevolent, can't say the word, malevolent, there, I got it. And there's others that are benevolent, and there's a whole mix,
Mhm.
but you always need to be careful. And I'll let you explain why, what could potentially happen if you banish spirits or send them into the light, etc.
Yeah. Well, you know, people feel we have the right to do whatever we want to do. And we don't know why they're there in the first place. So they might be in that house for a reason. And we don't know why they're there. So to go in there and force them out,
Hmm.
I don't understand the thought behind that. I mean, sure, they might be causing problems in the house, but like I said with that other story, right? Conflict resolution. Find out what the problem
Hmm.
is. Try and fix it. Uh, but I'll give you a good example. So the parents are out and the kids are at home, and they decide to have a party, and they invite everybody from the neighborhood, and everybody's there, busting up the place, having a great time. Music's blasting, and then the parents come home, and the first thing they do is shut the music off, and they say, "Get out, get out of the house." Well, all the good, all the good kids, they're gonna go, and they're gonna leave. They're gonna, right? Hey, they want us out. Let's go, and everybody, right, flies out of the house, except that one guy. He's hiding in the shadows, brooding. He's had a little too much to drink. He's not a nice guy, and he's just there. And now you got to deal with him.
Hmm.
And that's what happens when you clear a house. You come in, and there's a spirit that's causing a problem, but there's other spirits there. There's usually a balance. I've never been. I think I've only been in all my investigating found one location that had one spirit. Most of them have multiples. And there's
Okay.
usually some kind of balance. That balance might be off, where the good are better, or the bad ones are worse. But there's some kind of balance. By clearing, you, who's going to listen to you when you clear a house?
Hmm.
He doesn't want us here. Okay, we're going to go, and they're going to leave. Now what you've done is destroyed that balance completely. The bad ones are going, I'm not going. But there's no balance anymore. There's no one to say, hey, calm down or take it easy or you can't do that. They have run of the place.
Hmm.
This is why you hear, and I get dozens of calls. Well, we had a haunting and I smudged. And I said, okay, don't tell me, but it was beautiful for 3 days. And then it came back with a vengeance.
Hmm.
Yeah, how'd you know? Yeah, because smudging is like a bouncer at a bar, right? You smudge and you just throw him out. And he's outside going, what the heck? And now he's upset because you just threw him out of his house. And it was his house
Hmm.
before you moved in. He probably even built it with his own hands.
Yeah.
Now he's coming back and he's going to deal with you. And now you're going to call me because now you have a bigger problem. So, people hear these things and they think they're the greatest thing. And it it's from the natives, right? They smudge
Hmm.
to clear bad energies. But if you go out to, and I live around a great number of re, native reserves, and I'm out there all the time, and I talk.
Right.
The intent for smudging bad energy is not to remove a diabolical or evil entity from your house. What the intent was is your Uncle Joe came over for a visit, and he's like a dark cloud. Everything is bad. Life sucks. And that's bad energy. And you clear the room from Uncle Joe's bad mojo.
Right.
But somehow people got it into their head that this stuff is, if I smudge the house, I can eject everything. Not how it works. It's not designed for it. So it just causes more trouble. But that's okay. It keeps me busy.
Gives you things to write about and keeps you busy.
Well, you know,
I see we're both hitting the hard stuff. I got my Dr. Pepper and you got your Pepsi. Hey, did you try the cream soda Pepsi yet?
That's blasphemy. No,
that's delicious.
Is it? No. I'm old school. I'll just stick with this. Thanks. But,
hey, I think we're only a few months apart.
Probably.
But I love me that cream soda Pepsi with vanilla ice cream, like the old school float.
Oh, no, okay. Yeah, now you're sort of winning me over now.
See, that's what I really, I'll drink the odd can of it, but I really love it with ice cream. And I mean, obviously my favorite is with Orange Crush.
Oh boy. Okay.
Right? Creamsicles. Oh, such treats. So first, we'll let you know, here's the other chaos mischief. So if suddenly you see the screen go nuts with comments,
that
will be Jenny and Kat, who love to play spam the comments and see if Elaine can keep up. And see, she was napping, so we had a little bit of a break there. Wow. So they were all saying hi to Kat. I don't think I've missed any. Yeah, see, chaos can be exhausting. Yes, and you two need to rest up because I think Dave and Gareth have a live stream where a number of us hop over, and yes, they play over there as well. Oh, what are you very disappointed about, Ven? What did I say? I love when other people's incompetence pays the bills. Not sure what we're, especially with, little man. She has a cute little doggy who likes to nap as well. Oh, monster. I've never had one of those, Leslie. Okay, hope your break was good and the monster was yummy. Have you ever had one of those drinks staying up at night, Richard?
What's what? Monster
energy drinks?
No, I don't.
I've never tried one of those.
No.
Oh, here we go. Cat, yes, crush with vanilla ice cream. Yeah. Everyone's saying, have a nice day. Well, now that you mention it, yeah, I know, Kat. See, now I haven't, there's the funny thing, Constance. I've never tried one with Dr. Pepper. I've used cream soda, the pink one, Orange Crush, and the cream soda Pepsi. Oh, and root beer.
Well,
root beer is yummy.
Yeah.
See, here they go. Spam, spam, spam. So now we're caught up. I know I can always count on them for that. Okay, now one question I 100% have to ask. Meeting place of the dead. Lot of things happening in here. I'm glad the kitty cat was fine and you found her. Doggy made me sad in here, but we're not going to go there.
Yeah.
Did you ever go back? That last sentence, I'm like, no, Richard, you can't do this to me.
I did.
Okay. That's what I need, because I'm like, okay, yeah. I agree with your point. I agree with, why you needed to end there, but I'm like, no, you can't leave it like that.
I know. Yeah. But no, I did. I went back. A lot.
Okay,
Like
and
a
I
lot.
mean, there were a lot there were a lot of different things going on in here, and I really appreciated um, when one of the participants, and I can't remember if it was you saying it or the individual saying it, about not investigating alone. And can you talk about the importance of why people should not be doing this type of thing alone?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of reasons.
Especially in this
Some
place.
are, yeah, some are. A lot of them can deal with the paranormal, uh, and and then there's a lot that have nothing to do with the paranormal. And, we did an investigation at the Scarborough Guild of all arts, and luckily we weren't alone. There was a bunch of us. So there should always be a safety person in the group, and the safety person should, even though they want to be with the action,
Mm.
they don't go with the action. They stay. If you're here, they're there. And so when we were at the Guild of All Arts, we went into a room, a large room, underground. It was underground,
Mm.
all concrete. We got in there, and somehow the door closed, and
Oh.
and there was no handle.
Oh.
So now we're in a big, large concrete underground bunker, basically. No,
Yeah.
no cell service,
Yeah.
no way to get out. So luckily, they knew where we were, and he came down and let us out. It
Mm-hmm.
took a little while for them to figure out, hey, where are these guys?
Yeah.
But they came down and got us. If you're alone, and these things can happen,
Yeah.
you're out of luck. This is why you should let people know where you're going, when you're going, when you're coming back. If they don't hear from you at a certain time, they should come
Yeah.
look for you. Uh, the other thing is, in a paranormal situation, um, they can especially when you're alone, they can act out. They can push you down the stairs. They can push your equipment over, maybe push the
Mm.
equipment over on top of you. Uh, they could even frighten you, and you could fall down the stairs or run into something.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's always good to have somebody there watching your back, and you're watching their back, and you take care of each other. Going alone, yeah, there's people that'll do it, but
Mm.
I wouldn't suggest that it's a great idea. Like anything, you don't know what you're getting into. It could be, especially an old property. You can have,
Mm.
the floor could be bad. You could fall through the floor.
Yeah.
So many different things that can go wrong. And
Well,
especially these people that go at night in the dark.
to
Right?
places they don't know.
Yeah.
So they have no idea.
Yeah. When I get a job and I get permission, I always do a daylight walkthrough.
Yep.
Right? I mark off hazards. I mark off danger areas. Right? I tape them off or whatever I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I brief my people. I say, okay, this room is off site, off limits. We're going to put caution tape across the door because the floor is so rotted, or whatever we have to do. Or don't go in the basement. There's 4 feet of water in there, and the electrical's still running.
Mm.
So don't go down there, right?
Yeah.
So, we go through this thing, and it's for everybody's safety. I mean, yeah, if you want to go do something, you want to learn something, you want to have some fun about it, maybe, but do it safely, right? You still want to go home at the end of the day.
Exactly. Well, like Constance said, you don't want to become the new ghost.
It's exactly right. Yeah, yeah.
Because it can. And I know, and I've actually seen, and thankfully they were together. There was one channel I used to watch, and again, in old house, didn't know, and the ceiling literally caved in.
Yeah.
So he's lucky he was with someone else and he wasn't on that old ceiling as it caved in. But I mean, these people go into basements, everything else. There's old decrepit houses. And like you say, and again, they don't always talk about it because they're kind of well, they are entertainment channels, most of them, but you don't know if they're doing that daytime investigation like you've described and you describe in your books as well of, it's important to go in, get a lay of the land, draw a map diagram so that when you're there, each of you knows what to be mindful of.
Yep.
But, if you're doing it by yourself, which some people say, oh, I'd rather do this by myself, then I'm not distracted. And I'm thinking, I can kind of see that. But if anything happens, no one can reach you to help you out. Whether you're doing a live stream or not, if nobody knows where you are, and depending on what happens, and let's be serious, the humans are scarier usually than the paranormal. And if you're going to a location you don't know, and I'll give an example of this from my city, there's an old building here, and I actually saw a group came and made their video, and I was just shaking my head going, how stupid can you be? Because number one, this building has no history of ghosts whatsoever. It just happens to be an abandoned building. But nobody, and I mean nobody, including our police, go into that building because it's filled with crackheads.
Yeah.
That's where they live, and people from this city know that, and the police aren't going in unless there's a huge SWAT team backing them up.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of, they know what's in the building. And I'm thinking, how did you morons get out?
Yeah.
Like that shadow you put into your clip
Mm-hmm.
was the least of your flipping worries in that building.
Yeah.
Because anybody that knows that building knows you fools going in there at night.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've been at places where we're working the job and people are breaking in.
Right?
So, and you're like, what's that noise?
Yeah.
And we look, oh, it's not a ghost.
It's the humans.
Half the team and plus myself are, we got security and law enforcement background. So we're just standing there waiting for them to get in. They come in. Hey guys, how's it going? What are you doing here?
And thank goodness for your backgrounds. But again, right, it's, you just never know what you're going to end up with, especially in some of these situations. Now, not far from me is a little town of St. Thomas, and I know
great town, been there. Great town. Been there. Lots to do. The old train station. I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been to the psych hospital?
I did not go. I went to Alma College before they burnt it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great place. Great place.
Well, my sister went to Alma College for, I think, 1 or 2 years because she was older than me. But I do know with the psych hospital, it is best not to go in there without permission because the police station is right next door and they really don't appreciate people trespassing there.
That's right.
And the new hospital is just a little bit over from it. So,
oh no, you should always ask. I always get permission to go, and a lot of times, I'll depending on the location, I'll drop by the local police station and let them know. I'll give them my card and say we're working at this particular place. You're going to see lights, and you're going to see all kinds of stuff late at night, and we're going to try and keep it quiet. And oh, okay. And they usually send a car by to check on you, and then I usually give them, give them a hard time because they didn't bring coffee. But, I mean, if you're coming by anyways, like, come on, man.
But yeah, and again, those are all the important things to remember when you're doing a professional trying to develop the field investigation, is be cooperative and connect with the
Yeah,
police. I mean,
you want to develop professional relationships, right, with the neighborhood, with the police department, with even first responders, right? Like
yeah,
we'll get to know even the paramedics and stuff, right? We meet them sometimes at the donut shop and say, "You work in the district?" And they say, "Yeah." And then we buy them the coffee, right? We'll pay, right? And
nice.
that way, if you ever need these guys, they know who you are, right? So you get to the point, especially if you're working a job that's 3, 4, 5, 8 months, they'll drive by and they'll wave at you. They'll say, "Oh yeah, how's it going?" Right? And they know you're working that site. So it's good to build all these relationships. And that way, when you go
Exactly.
into a client and say, "Hey, I heard this might be haunted," they know. And they say, "Well, we work with the local police, we work with the local first responders, we work with the neighborhood." And they go, "Oh, okay." And now you're going to, yeah, why not? I trust them, right? It's, you need that because it's really getting hard to get access to places because of all these TV shows and these bad characters and these thrill
Mm,
seekers. Building owners and building property management teams hear about this stuff,
yeah,
and you come up and knock on the door and say, "Oh, we heard." They don't want nothing to do with you because you got to be like all the rest of you guys, and
yeah.
you're lumped into a bad situation. So you really want to develop good relationships.
Well, and that's it. And I think of, the Conjuring House, and I don't even know if that's still open, and that huge boondoggle between paranormal channels. Then there were different things with debunkers. Then, Jason Hawes was into it with the latest owner and Jason Hawes' daughter. And what a mess that became. And that was about the time that I started, excuse me, started leaving most of the channels because I
Yeah,
was just, it wasn't even entertainment anymore at that
no,
point. It's
no.
like, life is short. I don't have time for drama shit. Like, I don't. I'm 60. I don't care. I just want answers.
Yeah, I hear you. I know. It's yeah, it's a tough field to be in, but I mean, I was reminiscing with some of the guys not long ago when we were talking about this. Man, back in the 80s, it was so simple back then. And you hear all this nonsense about para unity and oh, good lord. Back in the 80s or even the early 90s, there was such a thing. It wasn't a big deal to call up or write to a parapsychologist or a paranormal and just
Yeah.
have a dialogue. Well, I did this and this is the results. What do you think? And we'd have a conversation. And we either agreed or we agreed to disagree. But it was always respectful. It was always professional. We shared ideas.
Yeah.
We can't do that now. We can't. It's just nonsense.
And that's the sad thing. And I've come across the same with different things I've read about Bigfoot
Mm.
and UFOs. I can't remember which book it was. One I was reading last year because August, September, I kind of do my UFO cryptology,
Right.
conspiracy theory, out of the box kind of things. And it was one of the books that I was reading. I can't even remember if it was the one by John Alexander or someone else right now. And they were saying that when they first started, so maybe it wasn't Alexander, when they first started in the field, um, it was monster hunters. And when they first started in the field, the Bigfoot people,
Yeah.
they had a network and they could call, like just what you said, they could call each other and talk to each other and, hey, what about this location? What are your thoughts? And they were all connected before the internet. How ironic is that?
Yeah.
And then it became mine. And I'm not sharing and I'm not talking to you, and it just started blowing apart. And same with the UFOs, is there's just so many things out there. And it's actually kind of sad because we can do things like this now, which would make it easier to make those connections and compare results. But for exactly the example you gave a little while ago, you sadly have to be leery and be super careful because there isn't that same level of respect or mature conversations,
Yeah.
or let's be decent and give credit to the original,
Yeah.
to the person who originated this idea or put this stuff together. And I'm like, that's so sad because now we have all these extra tools, and yet it seems to be the opposite of people being able to stick together. And yeah, there's different channels I've heard talking that para-unity, and then you watch it all blow apart as they're in one
Yeah.
drama-rama after another. And I'm like, do you get the concept of unity, and that you're the problem, not the solution?
I know. It's just nonsense. It's just.
Speaking of, Jenny, really?
Well, hold on a second. Let me answer that. Let me answer that one for you.
Have you been probed?
So here's when I was a kid, I saw, well, I've seen a bunch of stuff, but when I was a kid, this goes back to the 70s, early 70s to mid 70s.
Mm.
We were playing in the neighborhood, and we saw some stuff. And I didn't have a camera while I was a kid, and I said, my friend said, my mom's got a camera. So I sent him on his bike to grab it. It was half a block away.
Yeah.
Go get the camera. Make sure he's filming. So we brought the camera back, and I took a bunch of pictures. So I don't know if we can see this. Let's see.
Ooh, yeah, we can see a dot above the building there.
Yeah, so this, I mean, these are old photos, but.
Yeah. Wow.
And, the camera's not doing it.
Yeah, it's hard with but you can see that there's
Maybe-
something above the
maybe this one's a
buildings
little
there.
better.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. It's an odd shape. Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't get probed though.
Yes, and Jenny, that was an interesting response, Richard.
I didn't get probed. But I did see some stuff. Not that I know of. You know, sometimes I didn't get any. I didn't have to get hypnotized and find out later that there was some
Yeah.
back action. But I'm pretty sure I didn't get probed. So,
There you go. Well, and they're joking, Ven, losing time and about signs of abduction. You just never know where the conversation's going to go in here.
you never know where it's going to go.
We'll see. And in August, and I'm sticking with it, 2 years ago, I actually got a picture. I don't think I can find it quick on the computer, but it was very bizarre. I thought it was like a meteor or something, and it was in the evening, so it's all orange, and it looks
Right.
like there's these flares behind it. Now it's a plane, and when you really, really look at the picture, you can kind of notice the curvature.
Mhm.
And I had someone who knew about this program where you can see where all the planes and things are. They could tell me the flight that it was, and it was just the angle of the sun, the plane, and everything, but it looks like a UFO
Yeah.
initially, and only because I got a picture, which has made me think. And I mean, there's so much to all of this stuff,
Mhm.
but I'm thinking, okay, if I didn't have a picture and I just described it to someone,
Right.
it could easily be thought of as a UFO. And there, pre-internet and all this, there would have been no way to figure out what flight and what time that was and which part of the horizon and everything it would have been at.
Right.
And there's just, to me, there's just so many unanswered questions.
Yeah.
And I would love, and I love connecting with the people who are seriously trying to find answers. First you go for, is there a logical everyday explanation? And if not, then, okay, what are the most up to date current theories? Whether that has to do with the UFOs, the ghosts, the paranormal. I think of like that ranch in Utah, which I still say there's more to that than has ever come out.
Yeah.
And especially now that it keeps getting blocked off more and more,
Yeah.
and there's the old legends about it. Then there's this, connection between the UFOs and the Sasquatch and these other events all seem to congregate together. So are we talking about other dimensions, and maybe whoopsie doodle, the people freaking out about CERN are right and they've opened something they should not have?
That's right. Yeah.
But this has been going on long before CERN and that Hadron Collider were ever a thing. So it can't all have something to do with that, because these stories and ideas have been around long before those sciences
Oh, of
caught up.
course. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, CERN goes back to the Mandela effect, but really nothing else. So
Mm.
whatever is causing that is an interesting phenomenon on its own. But yeah, the other night, when was it? Tuesday, Tuesday, Monday, I think. Yeah, Monday night. So wasn't feeling well. I got up about 4 o'clock in the morning and went outside to get some air. It was a beautiful night,
Mm.
and I was out there for about, I don't know, 15 minutes or so. And I'm out in the country, so I got the big sky. I can see
Oh,
across.
so jealous. So jealous.
There was a star in the to the west, and there was a star to the east.
Mm.
There was a lot of stars, but these two, I don't know why, drew my attention, but I was keeping an eye on them.
Yeah.
And probably the first 10 minutes I was out there, I'm looking at them. And I am a sky watcher. I like to watch the sky. First 10 minutes, no, nothing, no big deal.
Mm.
But then that one started moving east. That one started moving west. And these things are high up. I thought they were stars. That's how high up these things are.
Yeah, yeah.
And I watched them for probably the next 10 minutes until they faded out of sight. They weren't moving fast. They were just taking their time, and they just crisscrossed. One was a bit higher than the other one. You could tell.
Yeah.
They crisscrossed, and they just went their way. I have no idea what these things are. They're not satellites, because satellites don't hover.
Yeah, exactly.
Airplanes, there's no red, green flashing. It's just like a white dot in the sky.
Yeah.
They're not planets. They're not, I don't know what they're. So they're definitively they're UFOs, because they're
Yeah, exactly.
identified. I don't know what they are, but yeah, you just never know. You just go outside and you're like, well, what are these things? But you see a lot of stuff out here. It's quite interesting, actually.
Well, without the light pollution and that's the one thing. It was one of the astronomy books I was reading, and they were saying, in a few years, because there's so much light pollution,
Mhm.
well, the one book, and I need to finish it yet, but I started it a while back, and it went back to when we had that big power outage years ago,
Right.
and all the lights went out in Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and people were losing their minds.
Yeah.
There were all these things in the sky,
Yeah.
and they were calling the police and flooding the lines, and they're like, they're stars.
Yeah.
But they'd never seen them
I know.
because
Yeah.
there's so much light pollution, and sadly where I live it's worse and worse. And then of course you have neighbors who seem to have their yards lit up like daytime because, let's light it up for people to find our house at night and break in. I'm like, seriously. Turn the damn lights off.
That's great. Oh.
You wait till they come in, and then you shine a flashlight in their face. They can't see, and you call the cops. Like, ugh.
No,
But-
it's better if they break in and you just stand behind them wearing your night vision goggles. That way they don't know you're there. I did that at Niagara Falls. You know, these they're not even, I don't know, they're like scare houses, right?
Yeah.
Go in there, they're pitch black, and you have to go through all these curtain dividers and stuff, and they're grabbing at you and pushing
Oh,
you.
jeez.
So I did that, and I thought, well, what the heck is this? Like, it's stupid, right? It's not scary. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to have some fun with it. So I got my night vision out of the car. And I brought them in under my shirt, and I paid again, and I went in. And instead of you go left and you start, I just went right. I put my night vision. Now I was going around, I was scaring all the guys that were scaring all the other people. The best money I ever spent. It was great. It was a blast. It was a blast. They finally caught me, and they said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just having fun, man." I thought that's what Niagara Falls was all about. So they had a bit of a laugh, and we joked. So that was a great time. Good time had by all. It's great.
Excellent.
So,
That's the best way to do it. Well, I see we're coming up to 4:00. That went by so fast.
yeah, it did.
So, Richard, I really appreciate your time. Talking about things, always a pleasure. I very much enjoyed the reads, and I am looking forward to continuing on with the rest of your collection. Big thank you to everyone who could join us, be part of the conversation, and a big thank you to Team Rewatch. And we're looking forward to your new book, Richard. Thank you so much.
I appreciate everybody dropping in and having a listen, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having my books. We'll have to, yeah. You're out towards St. Thomas, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah. So it won't be this year, but maybe next year. If I get out that way, we'll have to maybe have a lunch or something and
That would be lovely.
sign some books and swap some stories. And yeah.
That sounds amazing.
That'd be fun.
Definitely.
Well, let's pencil that in. All right, because we never know
Sounds
what it's
good.
going to be next year, right? There might be a tariff on that. But,
Well, we're going to say goodbye to everyone who could join us. Much appreciated.